Hi, folks, and welcome to September Alabama Blue School. Alabama Blue School is a monthly training session that is for local Alabama Democratic volunteers and organizers. This is a chance for us to learn and share information about how to be better organizers and how to turn Alabama purple and blue one day, we hope. Um, and this Blue School is organized by an organization called UDCAL, the United Democratic Clubs of Alabama. And we are a working group of local volunteers. And we get together to create networks with each other so that we can share resources and information. Because as Democrats, we know that when we work together, we get more done and we even win sometimes in some states, and one day in Alabama as well. So welcome to everybody who's here. This presentation is being recorded and will be on our YouTube channel. This evening, we have a treat. We have a very special guest. It's Owen Tanner-Flomberg, and Owen is here as a representative, or he's working with the DCCC, which is a group that helps get Democrats elected. And his specific job is working on voter protection in the Sun Belt region, which includes Alabama. It's the funnest region. It's the hottest region for voter protection and other things. So we're really happy to have him here this evening, and he's going to talk to us about what we can do in our local organizations to contribute to make sure our voters are safe and their votes are counted. So Owen, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Emily, and thank you, Brian, for the invite. I'm really glad to be with you all this evening, those of you live and those of you that will be watching the recording. Like Emily said, my name is Owen Tanner-Flomberg. I am a Regional Voter Protection Director at the DCCC, or the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. And we are the group that works to uh, 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 or is working right now to take back the majority, the Democratic majority in the House of Representatives. We do that in a few different ways. We do that through working to re-elect vulnerable incumbents, which are Democrats that have close races. They've already been elected, but they've got close races projected this cycle. So we want to be helping them out to make sure that we don't lose any seats. And then in addition to that, we work to pick up new seats, to expand our caucus in the House of Representatives, and hopefully take back the few seats that we need to take back majority in the House and make Hakeem Jeffries Speaker in the new year. But we're not involved in every state, but we're involved in states where there are races like those that I just described. And Alabama is one of them, with Alabama 2 being a real pickup opportunity for Democrats. As folks may have seen, and I'm sure all this room is probably very aware of this, but the Supreme Court ruled that the congressional maps in Alabama were violated the Voting Rights Act and the Constitution, in that they were racially gerrymandered. So historically, in recent cycles, there's really only been one Black majority district in Alabama, despite the population, I think, being around 30% or so in the state, or higher, and much higher. I'm getting much higher. But yeah, so the Supreme Court ruled that the maps were unfair and racially gerrymandered. And then what happened is new maps were drawn, and particularly Alabama 2 was redrawn in a way that makes it a lot more fair. And in being more fair and giving the people of color living within that district the opportunity to select their representative instead of representatives drawing themselves maps, we have a real chance here to flip this seat, which is currently held by a Republican. So this is a really, really exciting opportunity. This is a big race, not only just for Alabama, but for the country. And we are thrilled to be involved in it. So I'm really excited to be working with all of you all and the team on Shamari's race, who's the Democratic candidate for Alabama 2, and talk with you all a little bit about voter protection. So to kind of start out, I will kind of describe what voter protection is, because I feel like it's a word that gets, or a term that gets thrown around a lot right now, especially given what's going on in the news and what's going on in the country since really over the past like 6 or so years, as our elections have really, really fallen under attack by the right. And basically, voter protection is what Democrats call the work that we do to make sure that everyone that's eligible to vote is able to do so. So that takes a lot of different, or there's a lot of different fronts in that fight. So what that can look like and I'm generalizing here between states, what that can look like is poll watchers on election day. And in states where there's early voting, having poll watchers out there. And what these poll watchers do, and we'll talk more about it in detail in a minute, is really watch what's going on in these polling places and be the eyes and the ears of the campaign and of the party to make sure that that everyone's following the law. I mean, that's what we're doing. Sometimes I think people may get freaked out. They're like, well, why do you have to watch the elections? Is there tons of fraud happening? No, usually not. But we want to make sure that election workers are following the law and that other community members or bad actors are not able to discourage folks from voting. And we'll talk in more detail about what that is or what that means in a minute. But so that's kind of one activity that falls under voter protection. Other activities that we do is we do a lot of work around making sure that folks that maybe voted by mail and their ballot gets rejected because they didn't sign something right or they didn't put their social security number right on it in states that require that. We do a lot of work to find out who those voters are and make sure that they have the opportunity to um, what's called cure their ballot so that it can get counted and they can take whatever remedy action they need to take so that their ballot can get counted. We do a lot of work looking at polling locations and working with counties to encourage them and people kind of in the voter protection space. I'm not saying I do all this, but uh, work with counties to try to get better polling locations. So I know a lot of the folks that are on this call or will be listening to the recording are involved with their county party's executive committee, or you may be the chair. This will be more of an after this election thing, but voter protection folks are always looking to work with county party leaders to optimize polling locations so that it's as easy as possible for folks to vote. And that can look like moving them closer to public transportation, um, expanding hours. There's a lot of different things that can be done. In addition to those buckets of activity, voter protection through like the DNC and through some of the larger state parties run like hotlines. And these are like voter protection hotlines for just random voters if they've got questions or issues or encounter problems trying to vote. can call those hotlines or often text those hotlines and get support. And we'll have one set up for Alabama, statewide for the general. And um, yeah, and then just really, really tracking things. So we do a lot of watching of what Secretary of State's offices do when voters are getting purged from the voter rolls. We're often will be watching and monitoring that situation and fighting against it too, because a lot of states um, are doing that more and more. It is purging. I don't know if anyone saw the news today, but um, uh, there's a big issue with voter registrations in Arizona, and there's 100,000 voters that are potentially not going to be registered for both federal and state level elections. And it's like this stuff never seems to end. It's going to get more and more confusing even after this election. We're not done. I know people don't want to hear that. This is going to continue to be a slog, and as states pass more like state level law, disenfranchising and suppressing the vote, it's really important to be thinking about voter protection because organizing and field organizers on campaigns do a ton of work and spend millions and millions and millions of dollars and millions of person hours across the country every year, uh, getting voters to the polling place to vote. And then when they get there and the line's too long, or the polling place never opened, or the polling place is out of ballots, uh, that investment can go to waste because that voter, that all that was invested in getting them to the polling location, isn't able to kind of finish that last step. So that's really where voter protection comes in, is to protect that investment of time, of treasure, to make sure that voters are ultimately able to cast their ballot. So I'll talk a little bit more about like what we're planning to do in Alabama here this cycle. But anybody have any questions or comments based off of all of that? I know I just ranted at y'all.
I think we're good.
Great. Well, so I think, like I alluded to, we are, and I think I mentioned earlier, we're invested in Alabama, particularly Alabama 2, the D trip is, and we're working with our partners at the DNC to really put together a statewide program that will work to protect the vote in Alabama with a big focus on the counties and polling locations within Alabama 2. Um, we, given like state law in Alabama, we we don't have early voting, and we really don't have much mail-in voting. So election day is it. And Alabama is one of these few states that are out there still that election day is it. And if things go wrong on election day, that can cause a lot of problems, as you all, I'm sure, are painfully aware when things have gone wrong in the past. Um, so we are really, really focused on building a robust program to get as many eyes and ears on the ground as possible um, in Alabama too, but also in other counties or districts and counties throughout the state. What that will look like is we are working to recruit poll watchers. So a poll watcher, I know I've, keep saying they're the eyes and ears on the ground, but for folks that aren't aware of what a poll watcher is, they're different than a poll worker. So under Alabama law, county parties are allowed to appoint poll watchers, up to one per polling place. And with that appointment, the poll watcher is allowed to enter into the polling location and watch voting happen. So they're not able to, watch who people cast their ballots for. You still have privacy for the voters coming in to vote, but they're able to be there at the check-in table, watching check-in procedures. They're able to make sure that nothing weird happens with the machines. They're there to also be eyes and ears for what's going on outside of a polling place. So, and that's really where a lot of the things can go wrong is uh, what's going on outside the polling place. So what that looks like is really often like voter intimidation. So voter intimidation can take a lot of different or appear in a lot of different ways. It can look like um, someone being outside the polling place screaming and freaking people out that are in line. That's voter intimidation. It can look like, even though you might not think of that as voter intimidation, it is because people can feel prevented from, getting out of their car and getting in the line to go vote if someone's screaming at them the whole time. Uh, Voter intimidation can look like uh, people outside with guns. Uh, And, this happens a lot. You may have seen this in some of your counties, but, a guy standing out there outside of a polling place with a rifle, while he may be legally allowed to do that, and he's standing in the right place, so he's not violating any law in the state, that still can be voter intimidation because it can freak people out to have someone with a large visible firearm outside of the polling place that's not a police officer. Another form of uh, uh, voter suppression or intimidation can be even excessive police force. So, we are not, as voter protection folks, we're not, against the police, but having 20 police officers parked outside of a polling place, particularly in um, communities that may not have a great relationship with law enforcement, is intimidation because people may not have a good relationship with the police because of like a community issue, but also B, people can get freaked out because they're like, something's wrong there. Why is there 20 police officers and they don't want to put themselves into danger? So that's another thing to think about. Like, I know the folks that are on this call and listening to this, um, probably wouldn't get freaked out typically. And would be actually probably curious to figure out why there's so many police officers out there because you all are very involved in your communities and involved in voting and politics. But there are a lot of voters out there that would not think like that. They would be intimidated by seeing like an excessive police presence at a polling location. So that being said, those are just a few examples of what voter intimidation can look like. Um, but ultimately, poll watchers watch, both stuff inside and outside that polling location, and work to report those issues to us in what's called the boiler room. And it'll be myself and some volunteer attorneys and some other volunteers in that room, um, uh, taking calls in from the poll watchers about what's going on and working to solve whatever issue it is, whether the polling place didn't open when it was supposed to, it's out of ballots, there's intimidation going outside. We really do it all. Um, I see a few questions in the chat, I think from Brian.
Yes.
Uh,
Yep, go ahead.
yeah, these are great questions. So I think the second question you had was, does voter intimidation include someone with a Confederate flag or another kind of flag or shirts? That's a really great question. And that's going to be very context dependent. So, like if there is a group of uh, radicalized folks, in their militarized kind of get up, and they've got their Confederate flags and other flags that they may have for their group, that could be intimidation. Someone walking into the polling place just wearing like a Confederate flag t-shirt, probably not so much intimidation, but like if the poll workers there are wearing like Confederate imagery or something like that, that would probably be voter intimidation. Now, what we're able to do with that varies so much on the context and what we're able to do about it, but that would be something that poll watchers would report to us. And then I know you had another one in here. How does one sign up to be a poll watcher? I will send you all the link after we're done here. I might try to pull it and get it in the chat. But there's a link where folks can sign up. And you fill out your information, say where you're registered to vote, so we kind of know where you're located, and then we'll send you a follow-up email immediately after that. It's automatic with a link to sign up for the next available trainings. And I host these trainings. We've had, I think they start, I think on the 23rd is the first one. So next week. And we'll be having, there's like 4 of them slotted right now, but we'll probably have 6 or 7 when all said and done. But we've got a bunch of people signed up, but we need a bunch more. And so really, I encourage you all as leaders within your county parties to share that around. If you all are already planning on doing poll watching and a poll watching program, that's great. I would love to know about it so that we can kind of get an idea of like what you all are doing. I'm not going to tell you not to do anything that you already want to do. I know sometimes, people, they have ownership over these programs that they've set up from cycle to cycle to cycle. And I don't want to um, uh, mess with that system that you've got set up at all. So if folks already have programs in their county, that's great. And I would love to talk to you. So feel free to reach out to me and we can sync up just so that we're in contact with you during election day. So if like we see problems in other parts of the state, we'll be able to sync up with your program.
Can I jump in with a question?
Yeah, of course.
So along the lines of counties syncing up with your group, I know in the past there have been different procedures for getting sort of the poll watchers need some documentation that they are
Yes.
the official. And is that going to come through you or is that going to come through the county chair? Because I know that's changed.
Yeah, so the way that we have planned for it to work, and if this causes a problem in any of your counties or you all know something better, tell me. But the way that I was planning on doing this is we're going to keep recruiting people. I know a lot of some county parties have already shared the link with their like email lists and stuff, and we've got some signups. And then what we're going to be doing is figuring out who's gone through the training, who's certified by like mid or early mid-October, like pre-mid-October. And then reaching out to the chairs of all the counties that we have folks signed up. And then we will, I believe we can send you a DocuSign for you to sign and we'll get all the paperwork together. Unless you have an established way of doing it that you want to do it. But then we would send all that over to the elections office, the chief election officer for the county, and do everything that we're required. This is a state law requirement. Does that answer your question, Emily? Great. And then Richard, I think you had your hand up.
I did, but you answered it in there.
Okay.
I believe Amber and I both have, Amber's been coordinating Tuscaloosa's program, and as the chairman in Fayette County, I definitely coordinate our program.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
And she wanted to know if we needed to be in contact with you.
Yeah, anywhere in the state, because we're going to run a boiler room with the DNC. So anyone that has programs even outside of Alabama too, we would love to sync up so that, because what can happen a lot is, something will pop up in maybe a county in Alabama too, and we've encountered the issue and it's some issue with a state system, and it may be happening in, Tuscaloosa as well, but maybe you didn't have a poll watcher at a location that was, encountering the issue. So the more that we can all coordinate the stronger the program will be.
Oh, I agree. Now,
Yeah.
because we usually have to reach out county by county or call somebody at the state party and hope they will reach out to people, which
Yeah.
doesn't usually happen quickly.
But yeah, that'd be great. So if both of you all, I'll share, make sure to share my information with Emily and Brian, and anywhere that they can circulate it. That'd be awesome. Anywhere in the state, we'll take you. And then I think there was a question in the chat, or just to note this, is anyone that's a registered voter within Alabama, anywhere in Alabama, is allowed to poll watch anywhere within Alabama. They just have to be a registered Alabama voter. So I know we have a few folks that I think are outside of the district that have expressed some interest to come in and help out in Alabama too, just because it's going to be a close race and we've got a real shot at flipping this seat. But we're not going to be like taking people from all of your counties and trying to get them into Alabama too. It's just if folks have expressed a particular interest in that, we've told them that's fine. But the goal is to keep folks in the counties that they're located in.
Because you mentioned that there can only be one poll watcher per polling station, correct?
Correct.
So if there's more than one volunteer in that location, then you could send them somewhere else.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. So we'll have some folks that will also be, it's a position we call a poll watching rover. And that's we assign them to a couple locations and they'll pop around them too.
Hey,
Yes.
this is Linda Turner in Houston County.
Hi.
I have my doubts about cross-county poll watching. You're saying the election law allows that, so someone in Houston County could poll watch in Henry County
Yeah, it's
on the inside of the polling place.
if they've been appointed by and got the certification documents from the county party chair in which that polling location is located. So like for example, if someone that lives in Birmingham wanted to come down to Mobile to help out, and this would be coordinated through me, if the Mobile County Party chair appoints that person to a polling location in Mobile, even though they're registered to vote in Birmingham, they would be allowed to be an official poll watcher in Mobile. Does that make sense? I don't think it's going to come up much.
I hear what you're saying, and I use Henry as an example because I'm 100% sure that neither my probate judge in Houston County or the probate judge in Henry County would allow that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. They would say, no, if you're not registered to vote in my county, you're not going to poll watch here.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I mean,
No, and I don't think it's gonna come up. And I don't think it'll come up for those counties in particular either.
Yeah.
But that's just what the state statute says.
I'll have to take another look at it. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions that folks have?
I have a quick, I hope I'm not belaboring this point.
No.
And this is all being coordinated with the ADP, with the Alabama, like you're working with Tom.
Yes, I work with Tom.
Okay. That's how we were introduced
Yes.
to you.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So Tom's been a great partner so far in getting this set up. And we're really excited to build a strong program here because I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on what goes on in this race just across the country. And I think there's a lot of potential for things to go really wrong. and whether that can look like a lot of different things. We won't know until election day, and hopefully everything is quiet and everyone has a really boring poll watcher shift. That's what I always tell poll watchers is sometimes poll watchers will complain. They're like, why did you get me to come sit out on election day this whole day at this polling location? Nothing happened. Everything went smoothly. That's good. That's good. We want everything to go smoothly. You should not have an exciting shift. Because trust me, when you do have an exciting shift, you wish that your your shift had been quiet. But yeah, we've got a lot of things that I think can go wrong on election day. I think we're going to deal with some long lines, and that's a form of voter intimidation and suppression that we can try to counter. I think we're going to see some counties potentially not want to certify the results of the election. And that's where a voter protection, steps in, and we'll be helping out in that case if any county decides not to do that. I don't know how much a thing it'll be in Alabama because in some of these counties it hasn't been particularly competitive in a while. So we are going to have to wait and see if any counties decide not to do that, and that's when litigation gets filed and it starts getting real messy and takes a lot of time too. So just flagging that's a thing in some of my other states where we know there's some counties that have already not, and other past, like during the primaries, didn't certify. And
You said Arizona is part of your.
yeah, Arizona and New Mexico's got some fun counties there too. Uh, but yeah, Amber or Richard?
You can go ahead, Richard.
Okay, I just had a quick question. It's probably not relevant, but were you intending to attend the ballot counter inspections in each of the counties in District 2 to make sure that everything was carried out properly in that
Yes.
inspection process?
So we're going to coordinate with county party leaders about that and make sure that, because I know a lot of county parties typically send somebody to that. Does yours?
Yeah.
Okay,
Me.
perfect. Okay, perfect. Well, I'm talking to the right person. So Richard, you'll have, our hotline number and everything, and
Mhm.
my direct line and whatnot. That will all get circulated to all of y'all and at some point. And if there's issues during that, you'll want to report that to me, and we
Right.
can.
I wasn't aware that maybe some of the counties didn't participate in that
Yes.
because it could be an issue as well if you wanted to address that with them in
Yes,
district.
that's a great flag, and I'll make sure that I'm circling up with particularly some of
That was
the
just my point.
yes.
Okay.
Great, thanks, Richard. Amber.
Hey, I apologize if I'm asking you to repeat yourself too many
Oh
times.
no.
Um, sorry, okay. I'm gonna come on camera just so like you're not like talking into the void. So okay. Um uh but I have I guess a three-part question, but it all relates back to like whether or not you're coordinating for the state or just for District 2, because I just want to make sure what that relationship is. So, one, are you like running the voter protection like boiler room for the whole state? And two, because I've been running our voter protection stuff in Tuscaloosa County for the past couple of cycles. Like we have our own training that I put most of our folks through, but like, is that fine? Would you prefer if our people attend your training? And yeah, I guess I don't have a third part. So that was that was it.
Oh yeah. Richard, you also have a training program for your.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. I don't, if you want me to deal with the training, I can, but if you already have a program set up, I would, if you want to do that this cycle, no issues on my front with that. So what I'm going to need to do is just connect with both of you all offline here and get an idea of like how you're planning to place people and whatnot. And then are you going to have, there's just a lot of questions I've got for it so that we can sync up appropriately. Because I know I'm not giving great answers of like, am I coordinating for the whole state? Am I coordinating for just the district? My official job is to just deal with the district. But if we're running a big program in the district, it strengthens everybody's program if they're all kind of connected together. So there's some involvement from like the regional voter protection director that covers Alabama at the DNC. Like I have a counterpart there, and we're kind of co-organizing. Like he's technically like over everything outside of Alabama too, and then I'm dealing with the stuff in Alabama too, but instead of like breaking it up like that, we're kind of just sharing different roles, if that makes sense. Great. Okay, so got your question there, Amber. So yeah, both of you will sync up with me, and we'll chat and just make sure that we're all coordinated. And like I said at the top here, I feel like sometimes national partners come in and they start telling everybody what to do, and messing up people's systems that they've set up, and then they're not around the next cycle. I don't want to do that, because I want to make sure that the infrastructure that you all have already built and spent all this time and effort building does not get weakened through this process. Great. That's all I've got for you all. If you have any more questions, I can keep answering them.
I've got one more thing.
Yeah,
I
go for it.
just wanted to add. All the county chairs should have received voter protection training and should be able to assist in the entire process with your helping you out with the boiler room and everything.
Okay, great.
But we have had training on that. At least every county party should have had training on that.
Okay, that's good to know. I did not know that.
It was an out.
Great.
And presented, I know, in Fayette County.
Awesome. And then it looks like Janet's got a question in here.
Seems to be a question about people outside the polling location versus the official poll watcher. And that's something, I mean, you can have as many people as you want outside, as long as it's within a certain, the 30 feet or something.
Yeah, 30 feet. But yeah, like that example that you provided, Janet, that'd be something that we'd want poll watchers to report to us if they were aware of it. And then we will be circling up with y'all too. I forgot to mention this. I know a lot of county parties in other states or down ballot races for like state ledge races will have poll greeters outside of polling locations. We're going to have a short, like it's going to be about a 10-minute video that explains what to look out for, things like these things that happen outside of a polling place, and where to report it to like our boiler room and HQ so we can deploy extra resources. But we're going to be sending out information about that later. And then Brian, great question in the chat, a poll greeter. So a lot of those are like the folks that a lot of campaigns and county parties would call the folks that they have outside of the polling place, maybe with like a tent and maybe some informational materials or maybe they're
not alcohol. Are we allowed to give out bottles of water? Is that just Georgia? We used to give out bottles of water and snacks and stuff like that.
I'm not sure, but I can get back to you on that. Yeah, so those folks that are out there, these are great eyes and ears on the ground that are watching what's going on. And something we've been trying to do more in like the voter protection space is talking with those folks, not trying to get them inside of the polling place necessarily, and disrupt what these local races or local county parties are doing, but just having an additional resource that they have to report issues so that we can be aware of what's going on and work to counter it.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would too many volunteers be counted as poll intimidation? I don't
No, as long as they're
know.
not harassing folks. So it can get into that. So I've had this happen before where um like Republican poll greeters or candidates for office in this case, were outside the polling location handing out their little pamphlets and materials, and they had a sign and whatnot. But it crosses the line into intimidation when they start like going up to people in the line within that 30-foot range and handing them stuff when they're not supposed to, or yelling at them, or being aggressive, or like really saying a bunch of really inflammatory or racist things towards the folks waiting in line. It happens. And that's something that we can alert local officials to and work to get those people removed.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else y'all got? Or any other questions I can answer about like the program? It sounds like next steps, I'm going to send the sign up link to Brian and Emily so they can circulate it with y'all and with the network here that they manage. And I think that was the big thing. And then I'll give my contact information and everything. And so that folks, if you do have a program that you're already planning or you've historically run, please connect with me via email, and just so we can get all synced up, and I'll loop in the DNC folks so we're all on the same page so we can protect the vote. This cycle, I think it's going to be a crazy election day. I really do. I don't say that to freak people out, but just to set realistic expectations. But we're going to get through it. We always do. But we're going to get through it here. Hopefully it'll be uneventful, but if it's uneventful, it's going to be for everyone that's out there on election day, watching the polls, keeping things calm, and making sure that everyone can cast their ballot. But thanks so much for inviting me, Emily and Brian. This was great to meet everyone, and really excited to work with y'all.
Thank you so much, Owen. It was great to meet you, and it's great to hear about everything that you're doing. This sounds like a really big program. I love to hear that you're going to be following up with the vote counting afterwards, because that's, as you said, that's going to be extra fun this year.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Well, we're here to, again, the more of us who are involved in this, the more power we have, and the more we can make sure things are fair and done properly. So we will do our part to make sure as many local county level leaders have this information as possible. My kids are sorry. Yeah, we'll send everybody your way, and we can all get trained and be ready for election day. Thanks so much, Owen. And thank you, D-Trip. Thanks to all of you who joined us tonight, and we'll see you next month, third Tuesdays of every month. Yeah, everybody. Cheryl, your cat is there to say good night as well. Okay, thanks so much. Thanks, Owen.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.